And away we go. It is the Nightcap brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken right here on BearcatJournal.com, www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Go to the website to get the app. Go to the app, and they will deliver right to your front door, pretty much anywhere inside the 275 loop, or head down to Dayton, Kentucky, Wednesday through Sunday, lunch and dinner. They will be open for the most part through the new year. Obviously, close their normal days, but open almost all of the rest of the time. So head down to Galactic Fried Chicken, Dayton, Kentucky. Tell them to pump it up. Save yourself 15% off of your order. All right, Aaron, let's get to it. Cincinnati 65, Merrimack 49. It was not overly aesthetically pleasing. Merrimack is definitely a team that has figured out a system and something that works for them. It is a very weird, I was fascinated by their zone personally as like a basketball nerd. And then Wes mentioned after the game, there's a lot of coaches that are kind of studying what they're doing. It's almost like a 4-1, like 4 guards rainbowing the 3-point line with one big man down low, and then one guy will drop back and it looks like a 1-3-1, and then it can look a little bit like a 2-3. Like, it's not necessarily like a matchup where they're passing guys off, but it looked like it was really annoying to play against.
Whatever it did, it got in the passing lanes because my goodness, turnovers aplenty.
And a lot of silly, just they looked uncomfortable. I think is the best way to describe it. Cincinnati looked uncomfortable on offense the whole night.
Some of the turnovers, though, they weren't your standard I pass and guy steals and runs away with it. They're falling out of bounds. It was
I said, they uncomfortable. Yeah. I just don't think when you play a defense like that. And we saw, when Mick kind of started using the 25, the matchup zone, it was something that nobody else was really playing, and it messed with teams. And it made teams really uncomfortable because it was man or it was zone, or do you run man offense or do you run zone offense, or what exactly do you do against this thing? I thought initially from the jump, they had a good game plan in getting it to Vic, working Vic in the high post, and then letting him kind of go to work there. I mean, he had 8 points almost immediately, it felt like. And then they obviously changed something up a little bit. They did a better job. Somebody mentioned, and I'd have to go back and watch, I think it might have been Mark, Bearcat Mark on the boards, that said Merrimack, from his perspective, kind of backed off. They were playing him really physical early, and Vic was able to handle that. And then they backed off and gave him space. And it made him, it kind of threw off the rhythm that he had developed early. Mark's usually pretty good at, knowing what he's watching. I'm not saying that a lot of fans that show up on Twitter and the message board aren't good at that, but Mark's pretty good at knowing what he's watching. So, I'll take his word for it a little bit on maybe that's what threw him off. But, if you're going to play Odie, he's got to play better. There were just 3 or 4 times where it should have been easy scores where Vic made the right read, made the right pass, and then Odie didn't do anything with it. He got a little bit better in the second half, but in that first half, I feel like that contributed early to a lot of the inability to go on an actual run and pull away. And then, I mean, I don't know. First off, Aziz was out. CJ Frederick was out. So lineups and rotations were a little different. Odie and Josh played a little bit more than they have been.
Let's at least say that it wasn't, at least according to Wes Miller in the postgame presser, didn't sound like anything crazy, or it just seemed that Aziz's back is a little out of whack, and it seemed that There was some hamstring.
CJ bothered his hamstring
soreness, and he did tear his hamstring when he was at Kentucky. So they're
2 years ago.
Overly precautious with CJ and his hamstring.
Guess what? You have a monster gauntlet starting in 2.5 weeks or whatever.
I just want to make sure that whoever's listening is understanding. Yeah. That's why.
No, I'm explaining it a little bit. Yeah. Like, I don't think Aziz, I think if they needed Aziz to go tonight, I don't think he could have. It sounded like his back is tightened up. And look, as somebody with back spasms, I get it. Like 2 or 3 days after, there ain't a whole lot of activity on your plate. So, but it did sound like if they needed CJ to go, if it wasn't Merrimack,
he said he wanted to go.
Yeah, they probably could have had him out there, but you're not. Just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You don't need to run him out there in that situation. Right. So that changed the rotations a little bit, but offensively, it was just disjointed. It just looked uncomfortable. It didn't look like they were really able to get downhill. You didn't see a lot of driving layups.
Well, the layups that you did see, they finished 6 of 16 in layups, and that's horrendous. That said,
well, it's actually they were 8 of 11 on dunks.
Right.
Jameel missed 2 that, I'm sure they're gonna pick on him for. But to my point, Aaron, this is what I was getting at. 2 of 5 on layups. And that's so far for this offense. They have been pretty good at playing downhill and getting to the rim and to only attempt 5 layups for this offense. Now they had 11 dunks, or 11 dunk attempts, but to only attempt 5 layups for this offense is just not what we have seen to this point.
They also only attempted 12 threes, which is something we haven't seen either. So 5 of 12.
That I think is a definite result of that zone, because there's just at all times 4 guys out there.
No, yeah, you didn't see the ball moving to an open guy very often. Somebody seemed to always be hanging out around the arc, and it would have been a contested shot, would have been a far lower percentage, and they've struggled in the losses anyway behind the arc. And this isn't going to be a game where you get that confidence if you got a hand in your face firing up a 3 just to fire up a 3.
Impressive though that they didn't. Like, they didn't force it, I didn't think. I think they took what the defense gave them.
I agree. The only thing I saw that I didn't love, and this was pointed out also by Terry on the broadcast, there shouldn't ever be a situation where Odie is at the top of the key and there's another. When you have 2 bigs in, Odie should never be the guy at the top of the key and not in the box. He has to be the guy on the block. He cannot be, because he looks lost. He's always trying to find someone to pass the ball to. He's not going to create his own shot out there. And it seems a wasted possession, a wasted pass in an offense that obviously, I won't say struggled, but had some issues tonight. They did that for, I feel like, several possessions before they figured out, we shouldn't be doing this.
Like in the middle of the zone, Odie's not the answer. Now there were some times where he was the only big out there, so that's I guess in their zone offense, that's kind of the role that
you had him up. You had him up top and Vic it in the box or in the block though, and I feel like
Aaron. Guess what? When they put Odie down low, he couldn't catch the ball and score.
Well,
so I'm wondering if
that gets back to your point. Yeah, where if Odie's playing, you got to figure it out. There's situations. It just seemed like there were situations that we'd seen in the past where he'd put the ball on the ground when it didn't need to go to the ground. Instead, he needs to go up 2 hands strong. And there were other times where he looked like the evolution of Odie, where he's doing those things. So it's so weird that it just doesn't seem like his head's always in the game, or he's overthinking it, or I don't know. I know those 2 things are very contradictory.
Let's call it what it is. He's not a guy that's overly comfortable with the ball in his hands.
Ever.
Like making a decision. Like, catch it, dunk it. Like, okay, he's pretty good at that. Like, he's got some decent back to the back. Well, when he catches it, is what I'm saying.
and there's no one around. Otherwise, he'll put the ball on the ground, and you're wondering why you put the ball on the ground.
That's decision making with the ball in your hand. He's not. It's. You don't want to, with Aziz out, you don't want to overwork Jamil as you're working him back in. Like, he's not at a point. He looked tonight like there were times where he was gassed. He's not at a point where you can play him, I don't think, 25, 30 minutes a game. And Aziz is out. So he's going to play. Like, But it's tough against a zone like that. If he's not the guy that can play the dump down, the dunk spot role, and you can't play him in the high post, you got to play him in one of the two spots if he's on the floor. The argument would be don't put him on the floor.
Hard to find minutes for him if Aziz is healthy at this point, I guess.
Right. Well, when Aziz is healthy and then you get Jamil, he played 14 minutes tonight. Once you get him up in that more closer to that 20-minute range, you do wonder, Odie played 21 minutes tonight. Where are those minutes going to come from?
Well,
but Odie had 8 points, 3 of 7 from the floor, 3 rebounds, 2 fouls, a turnover.
You saw Jamil doing the things that we're griping about, though, where he isn't afraid to make the move, go up strong. My goodness.
Try to dunk on somebody's head.
Anyone who's in his way.
He might be your favorite player ever once he gets back into form.
So
because he does try to dunk on everyone.
I was going to say, and I had shades of Fortson a little bit. He doesn't have the post.
Danny could barely jump over a piece of paper, Aaron.
I don't know, man. Maybe it's just
because angles.
Maybe it's just because I'm just trying to romanticize like anybody wearing the Jordan block. Who am I comparing Jamil to that wore the Jordan block?
Max played with that type of aggression. He wasn't that. He was 6 inches shorter, but Max tried to dunk on you. Hicks tried to dunk on you.
He was a lot of post. Yeah, there was a lot of. They had a lot of post stuff.
Yeah, but Jamil's significantly bigger than both of those dudes.
He is that.
It's funny. Again, it's funny seeing him next to other guys like normal looking humans that are like 6'4", 6'3", 6'4", and you're like, shoulders are just like this. But let's get to my ultimate point of this game, Aaron. Right now, this is a team that is not playing with confidence. I posted it on Twitter. Wes said it in the post game. I followed up with a question about it because I was going to ask about it if he didn't bring it up, and I wanted to follow up on it. This team has not taken well to these 2 losses, which is good. Like, you want them festering over losing, but it has to manifest itself in turning the corner and playing well. Like, everybody wanted the benefits of playing a tougher schedule. Okay. In a 8-day period, you played 2 decent teams, 2 good teams, whatever. You lost both of those games. Now get better from it. Now turn the corner and get better. And I didn't see a team out there tonight that played with much confidence.
18 turnovers is not getting better.
And Merrimack is one of the best teams in the country at turnover percentage. Like I said, that zone is weird. 18 is too many, but I guess my point being on the turnovers, they're going to get you to 12 or 13 or 14 because that's what they do. To end up at 18 is egregious. But this likely wasn't going to be a game that you had 8 or 9, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. This team out-rebounded Merrimack by 20. So good on you for that. You should have.
And it was a lot more than that until the very end when Merrimack in the final 4 minutes or so got some chase down rebounds.
You're bigger than them. You did give up 5, so the score maybe is a little closer. You gave up 5 in that last minute. And I'm sure that hurt a lot of people who bet on this game, myself included. Maybe the score is a little closer than what it was because of that.
There was a guy sitting by us that felt pretty good when it got to 21, and he wasn't in the same mood 30 seconds later.
I'm sure that drive back to Indianapolis hurt a little bit.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yep,
I didn't mention any names.
That said, I don't. I guess I was happy that I talked about this with George tonight. I was happy that Vic didn't start shooting threes. I think that if Vic shoots more, if he's missing 3 threes, he's shot too many threes on the night.
It depends on it depends on the flow of the offense. If he's taking, I don't mind if he shoots 5 threes, if he's taking the right threes. If he's in rhythm, catch and shoot, taking a 3, I don't mind that, even if he's not on. What is frustrating is if he's got a guy in the vicinity, a hand in a closeout, nearby, he's rushing to get it up. See what I did there?
Yeah, I saw.
But he does. So here's the thing: watch CJ Frederick shoot, right? Quick, boom. Vic does not have a quick shot. It takes a little while. So I'm talking about pick and pop. They leave him, and he's able to step into a good rhythm 3. I don't care how many of those he takes and misses, because he's got a soft touch, and he's going to make a decent amount of them. Where it's gotten him in trouble, Aaron, is he's hunting them a little bit, and there's guys around him, and he's not able to go through his process. He's not able to be comfortable, and he rushes it, and then it's off. And I didn't, he didn't get into that tonight, obviously, because that defense was not going to allow him to be anywhere remotely close to comfortable catching and shooting the way that they defended. And you're not going to, against that zone, you're not going to get to do a lot of pick and pop.
Right.
Because it doesn't work.
I think you're starting to see Day and Jizzle learn how to play together, happening in real time. I think that's starting to look good. I also think that you're starting to see Dan Skillings is in his head real bad.
Here's what I'll say was impressive, Aaron. Not from Dan Skillings. 18 turnovers. 1 for Day, which was in the final 30 seconds, and 1 for Jizzle. Mm-hmm. So there were turnover issues, but it was not from your point guards.
It was from your bigs, from John.
Wings. Yeah. John with 4, Vic with 3, Simas with 3, Dan with 2, Jamil with 3.
Odie only had 1. That's wild. With all those,
a lot.
And only have 1 is wild.
They didn't throw it to him on the block a whole lot, though. They were trying to hit him in the dunk spot, but they weren't trying to hit him where he
may have had his best dunk. That alley-oop was amazing.
Yeah, it was a good one.
I don't know that I've seen him fly like that.
Oh, he can jump.
I know he can, but I don't know that he's ever connected like that.
That's never been in question. Jumping is not the problem. Catching, passing.
He did all the things that he needed to do on that play.
Yes.
Do you think this team's lob happy? I do.
No, not really.
I say that because, again, this is something that Terry brought up on the broadcast. He said that at times this team looks like an AAU team. He said that they start to play into the crowd getting hyped on the alley-oops, and said that at times you miss out on opportunity. You essentially give a possession away because you're missing on the lob.
I also think there's some of that is old man yells at cloud.
Sure. And I'm obviously at this point, I think we can all say I'm a fan of that at times. So
nobody complains about the lobs that get dunked.
Sure. Myself included. I'm as big on the dunk as anybody.
I'm
well
aware.
Documented. Well documented.
I think there's some that they have to learn. Like some of it is, Aziz, you've got to learn what's a good lob and what's not. The only way you learn that is in real game action, playing with him on the floor next to you. Because I can tell you, there have been times in practice, like I have talked about, that there have been some like, what the hell is that as the ball is in the air? And then Aziz just comes and snatches it and dunks it. Well, guess what? In games, that's not likely to, like, it's not
happening.
It's not high percentage.
Yeah.
It's not high percentage. So this team does have to dial in what works in games and what doesn't. The only way you do that is by being out there.
I just wanted to see what your take was on that.
I mean, have they had some bad ones? Absolutely. Like, absolutely. I'm not saying they're batting 1,000 on throwing lobs.
No. I'm
saying the only way to get it right is at times to throw one, and then in your brain you go, oh, he can't get that one. Because I guarantee you a lot of them think, throw it up there, he'll go get it.
I guess I don't want to see those kind of mindless turnovers in conference play.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, you're giving away valuable possessions. Look, let's be honest with each other. If this team's going to win games in the Big 12, they're not going to be by comfortable margins.
Oh.
So possessions matter. I get your point. Hopefully, as you get there, they are more comfortable knowing this one, good. This one, where Aziz is standing flat-footed underneath the rim, and they try to throw him a lob, like, he's not actually an alien.
UFOs have been confirmed. You know that, right?
If he was actually an alien, then you could just throw anything and he would go get it. We're learning he might be part human.
Even the UFOs go down sometimes. They find shrapnel. Anyway, John Newman had maybe the best defensive showing that we've seen of him this year.
Yeah, he was up there. He played well.
I feel like he was in a Mick Cronin defense. He would have been an all-star tonight. All the deflections.
That's fair. A lot of deflections. He got his hand on a lot. Yeah.
Dede too. Dede looked good defensively as well tonight.
Yeah.
CMOS, I thought, was super efficient on offense tonight.
They actually looked okay in the 1-3-1 tonight with Dan out top. He got the steal and dunk, and then they ran it back on the net. Like, they didn't run it much, but I don't like this as a 2-3 zone team. 1-3-1 could be interesting. Like, as your change of pace, we got to get them out of their rhythm. The 1-3-1 could be interesting. I don't think this is a good 2-3 zone team. But the 1-3-1, at least, like, if you've got Dan out top or John Newman out top and you've got some length and you're able to frustrate and you're making guys throw over the top of that defender that's pushed all the way out.
It was good to see, to that point, it was good to see Dan in a spot where he was making defensive plays, as opposed to, more often than not, I feel like he's a liability as opposed to the guy making plays. So it was good to see him on the other side of that coin.
Yeah.
I thought that CMOS, in the time that he was out there, which he led all players in minutes, he was super efficient tonight. Anytime he had the ball in his hands, I feel like he was always making the right move, whether it was a pass, whether it was a shot. He shot well. I don't think he shot enough, truthfully. He
didn't
seemed like he
open.
I know, but it just felt like he was feeling it when he was shooting. 3-3 from behind the line, 3-4 on the night, 2-2 from the line, or 3-3 behind the arc, 2-2 from the line, 3-4 for the night. But just, I want to see him drive more, because he's probably the team's best free throw shooter outside of CJ Frederick.
Yeah.
So I want to see.
Dede's been really good at the line too.
That's also fair. But I would like to see him at the line more. That'd be my only gripe tonight, that he didn't shoot enough. I know that you continue to say we're going to see big things, and I want to see. I don't know. I guess I want to see a 20-point game out of him. That's me being nitpicky, but I don't know. Those are, I guess, the last thing that I'll ask you. Dan had 15 minutes. Anything that we should look into that?
It's hard to say, but he's got to play better. Like maybe this was that little message of like, you're going to be a part of this rotation, but if you want to be a major part of this rotation, you got to play better. He's not playing well right now. There's no skirting that.
In the limited minutes, unfortunately, I don't know that Josh looked any better.
He made 3.
I'd like to see one of them elevate to where they're certainly better. And I know we saw plenty out of Dan early this season that he looked far better than Josh, but it feels like he's regressed. I want to see progression out of one of them
he's forcing things, and here was the thing with Dan that we talked about at the beginning of the season, Aaron. We were understanding that he was going to force some things early as he adjusted to them asking him to do more, to be more assertive on offense, with the caveat that he needed to learn from the mistakes he was making along the way. The mistakes were going to come. Then you learn from the mistakes and you become more efficient. That part hasn't happened yet with Dan. He's making similar mistakes that we've seen from the beginning of the season to now. And that's not good.
I feel like he played better when he was free flowing.
He's always free flowing, but now he's trying. You know what I mean? No, I know. Well, he was better when he was playing guys that weren't nearly as athletic or talented.
I don't know that Merrimack.
That's
that, but
but his struggles have been Xavier and Dayton mostly.
That's where it's capitulated. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got to
find his. He's got to find his swag because
he's got confidence.
Yeah, him not having confidence going into out of conference play is not going to be great for this team.
Part of growth is learning from your mistakes and not making those mistakes and focusing on the things that you do well. We are seeing him make similar mistakes on a regular basis, and that's not going to cut it.
Well, hopefully better days are ahead for
young couple big games tomorrow in the Big 12, basketball wise.
Both on ESPN.
Baylor and Duke.
Yep.
And then Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina. Yeah.
Emotional
North Carolina, the Eric Montross game for North Carolina. So look for some emotion there. And they're coming off a loss to Kentucky. So
both top that'll be interesting matchups.
Yeah, that'll be interesting tomorrow night. Tomorrow, wall to wall. Dave and Keegan will be updating you in the morning as the letters of intent are coming in. We will all be together at UC 2:00. Scott Satterfield signing day press conference. Keegan and I will go from there to talk to Brian Brown and Brad Glenn, the OC and DC, to get their thoughts on the guys that they are adding to the mix. And then Thursday should be awesome. We will have Zach Grant, the general manager for this football staff, on with Dave and I for the BCJ podcast to just chop it up and talk about his philosophy and the way that they do things and what they're looking for. And we'll talk about the recruiting class. We'll talk about as many transfers as we can at that point. So the next 2 days, if you're a recruiting junkie, we are going to be loaded. So be ready. No BCJ pod tomorrow night. We will be up at UC. That will be Thursday this week. So there you go. We will see you tomorrow and roll it into the weekend. Don't forget, Friday, the Bearcats back in action against Stetson. That's the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya.